Boy, does it feel good to be back at the Apex. After some great pay-per-views, some great fight nights in Azerbaijan and Abu Dhabi and Nashville, feels good to be back at the lifeless place where we get to watch fights on Saturday. Now, I've actually been to the Apex. It's amazing, but watching it on TV just doesn't hit the same. And of course, the quality of fights that are going on these Apex cards, not exactly the quality you're going to see in Abu Dhabi or on a pay-per-view card. And actually, the main event here, we got Taira versus Hyung-Sung Park. You're probably wondering if I was going to put out an early picks video this week, and I was going to. All right, I had a family reunion this past weekend. Watched UFC Abu Dhabi on Saturday. Was a little upset with how things went. Had a little bit too much to drink. Had to drive back home Sunday. And when I get home, I'm ready to film. And then I see the main event, Taira, Amir Albazi. It's not on anymore. And I said, I'm not recording this until there's a main event. So it's a little bit late. I apologize for that. But I got to get this early picks video out to you because it's fun for me to do. A lot of people like to know where my head is at going into the week. I haven't put any bets in. I did put the DFS plays in, though, so I had to take a look at the card a little bit. But I'm going to go through and I'm going to talk about every single fight that we got, which I believe is 10, maybe 11 on the card. I'll let you know my thoughts from a betting perspective, pick perspective, whatever. I'll give you the rundown and where my head is at. But before we do that, we got to hop into the recap of UFC Abu Dhabi, and that is usually why I like to do the early picks videos, because I can go over how the night went. The night went okay in hindsight, because it could have been amazing, but it went okay. We did hit a nice play on Davey Grant. That was cool. We hit a lot of our over-unders. We went prop hunting, and we caught nothing. Okay, we went really deep into some big plus money props. Said Nurmagomedov sub, no. Carlos Leal round one, no. Marcus Boucher round one, no. Jose Ochoa submission gave us some chances. Barriel decision also gave us a chance. RDR round 1, 2, or 3, not really a chance. But overall, the sportsbook plays, we were positive 0.17 units. And the DFS was the real one that got me sad about the night. Okay? That was the one that brought me down. I had to stare off into the distance for a little bit, just knowing how much money we could have made. And we ended up losing a unit on the night. It really came down to one slip. Otherwise, we would have been in the profit. But Robert Whittaker, we had him lower than 65.5. It went the full 25 minutes, which I didn't really expect it to go so. And he got 66. So he lost that slip by one significant strike. And then we also lost this slip on Martin Budai by one significant strike. Another fight that went the full 15 minutes, didn't expect it to do so. And we still almost won, and we lost by one. So those right there, one significant strike less. It's a 6-unit swing. Unfortunate, but that's how the game goes. And then Marcus McGee, we had him higher than 68.5. And he got 6 significant strikes in round 3. He was cruising. Round 1, 20 plus. Round 2, 30 plus. I was like, this is going to be easy. Round 3, he gets 6 significant strikes. So we lose that one as well. So we lost, we were a sweep away, or we were 9 significant strikes away from sweeping the board, hitting the 100x payout on better picks. We lost the 20x payout on underdog by Robert Whittaker going over by one significant strike. It hurt. Those are the ones that hurt more than actually just losing something when it never had a chance. But when you lose by one, that sucks. But unfortunately, or I guess fortunately, I lose. And you guys lose as well, because some of the lines would change. And I would honestly feel bad if I won and you guys lost because of, how the lines can move. So at least I'm right there with you. When we lose together. So on the night, we were down minus 0.87 units at UFC Abu Dhabi. It's not a big loss by any means, but it just felt like we could have made so much money. And on the year, we're positive 42.3 units. As I said earlier, I put in the DFS plays today. So if you want to go check those out, jump on the Home5 Picks Premium membership. Use code HeyJob, get you a 5-day free trial. That's where you're going to get every single one of my bets every single week. We've been doing pretty well. Unfortunate that we couldn't cash in on UFC Abu Dhabi because we were right there. Big swings. Unfortunate, but we take that on the chin and we move on. 2025 results right here. If you want to take a look, I just like to always be transparent. You can pause it if you want to. I'm not going to go through it, but there's everything you need to know about what is going on in 2025. Let's just get into the fights, man. We got the first fight of the night. Taira Rodriguez taking on Ketlin Souza. Taira coming in here off after a big dog cash for me last time out against Josephine Knudsen, where people just thought Knudsen was going to be able to run through her. I was like, nah, Taira's got some wrestling in her bag, and if she uses it, she could definitely win. I played Taira by decision, I believe. I might have played her on the money line. I forget. But she was like a plus 230 dog. I think her decision line was plus 350, something like that. And she got it done. She got a bunch of takedowns. I was there in Tampa, first fight of the night. She just grappled her up. And Knudsen, mainly a kickboxer, but she had shown some level of wrestling in the past, but she hadn't really fought many girls that would go to the wrestling. And that's what Taira did. I know Taira has the wrestling. I think her stand-up is pretty solid as well. She was piecing up Ariane Cornolle, damn near knocked her out, and then headbutted her, lost a DQ. Her only loss in the UFC is to Jillian Robertson. I was there and actually bet on Jillian Robertson. Taira Rodriguez, fun fact, same birthday as your boy, 11/11. So I got a little soft spot for Taira Rodriguez. She's maybe some money when I back her. She's maybe some money when I fade her. She's got a tough test here, man. I don't think Ketlin Souza is a bad fighter by any means. And I thought she was when she came into the UFC. And this is an early picture of her in the UFC. But ever since she's been in the UFC, it's like she's getting more and more lesbian. She is the definition of a Brazilian lesbian with neck tattoos. Okay, she is going to go in there. Very physical, hits hard. She's like a mini Andrade. A mini Andrade that maybe doesn't have the same level of power, but she's still 29. She's getting better. She's getting better. I thought she arguably could have beat Angela Hill in her last time out. Before that, she knocked down Yasmin Jauregui, jumped on the neck, submitted her as a huge underdog. So I got, a lot of respect for Ketlin Souza, considering what I thought when she came into the UFC. I didn't really think she was going to be that great, but she was also very undersized, and she was fighting at the wrong weight class. So now it seems like she's at strawweight. She's fighting at her better weight class. She's able to compete with these girls a lot better. And I think she has a good chance to win this one against Taira Rodriguez, because if she can keep the fight on the feet, I think she's going to be the better striker. Not that Taira is a bad striker, but she's going to a very close fight with Sam Hughes. And I think Sam Hughes is good, but Sam Hughes struggles to get the respect sometimes, and she's kind of got to march her way towards taking over the fight with her pace. Ketlin Souza is going to be able to get the respect on the feet from Taira. So if she could stuff the takedowns here, I think she's definitely live. And even though she got taken down by Angela Hill, she was able to get back up. And it wasn't like Angela Hill was able to take her down the next round and the next round. She was able to fight through it. And if she's got 15 minutes of cardio, if she could stuff 50% of the takedowns, maybe a little bit more, I think she could maybe make this one close. We're also in the Apex, so she's going to have probably a tougher time, keeping her away. But I think she could even, match some physicality here against Taira Rodriguez. So considering Taira is the favorite at minus 190, I'm not super interested in playing that. I look more towards the Ketlin Souza side at plus 165. I just think she's tough. I think she's got good power. She's got solid volume, and she can match the physicality of Taira Rodriguez. So early pick, I'm going to lean towards the underdog here in Ketlin Souza. Kind of yapped for a women's MMA fight to start the night, but sorry about it. I was in the bottom shelf. I'm putting it in the top shelf because otherwise it might pop out. Take a swig, and we jump into the next one. Felipe Bunes coming in here at plus 360. Taking on Rafael Estevam, minus 460. Dude, Estevam stepping in here on short notice. There's one thing, he ain't making weight. There's just no way this dude makes weight. It's scheduled to be at 125, where the fight was supposed to be. Bunes was supposed to fight Andre Lima, which was already a very tough fight for Felipe Bunes. Andre Lima, I think he's a beast. Very good fighter. One of the best prospects in the flyweight division. He pulls out. Estevam steps in on short notice. He's missed weight. He's always struggled to make 125. Now he's got to do it on short notice. I don't know how he's going to make it. I don't think he's going to make it. I think he's probably going to miss by a few, but they'll probably keep the fight on. And that's going to be an advantage for Estevam. If he's not going to make the weight, he's going to have the advantage because, he's a physical guy. He wants to take you down. He doesn't want to strike with you. He's going to wrestle. And we saw against Charles Johnson, the cardio fell off a cliff, and he loses round 3 pretty badly. Didn't really do anything in round 3, but he survived to make it to a decision. He had won the first 2 rounds. So going up against Felipe Bunes, only had 2 UFC fights. He's 35. He's had a long career. He fought in Russia many, many times against really good level of competition. He fought Jussier Formiga on the regional scene as well. Got submitted by him. But then he makes his debut at like 32, 33 against Joshua Van, and he gets cooked. And people thought, this Bunes guy sucks. So they make him an underdog against Jose Johnson. Well, who sucks more than Felipe Bunes? Jose Johnson does. So I bet him as an underdog, and I bet him by sub earlier this year. He gets it done. So he's 1-1 coming off the win to Jose Johnson. And now he's a huge underdog again. And I'm like, I've never really thought Estevam was that good. Like, he is a great wrestler, and he's pretty good at chaining his takedowns and keeping heavy on top, fighting through submissions. Obviously, we've never seen him lose, but he's stepping in on short notice. I don't know how his cardio is going to be. I don't know. He's probably not going to make weight, but if he does, I think his cardio is going to be even worse. On the feet, he hasn't shown anything for me to get behind. So, I think the line is just a little bit crazy. Like, I think Bunes is a serviceable striker. He's got good jiu-jitsu off his back. He can make a lot of mistakes. He's a little bit older, so I don't like that. But the line is huge, man. The line is huge. He's plus 360. I just don't understand how Bunes, if he's going to lose this fight, he's probably going to get dominated on the ground for 2 out of the 3 rounds. It's probably going to be the first 2 rounds. I never thought Bunes had great cardio, though. So that's where I kind of, lean towards Estevam winning the fight. I'm going to take Estevam for the early pick, but I think the line is just crazy. Bunes has some good submissions. I think he could definitely put Estevam in something dangerous early on. And on the feet, I think Bunes is the better striker. It's just, can he do it for 15 minutes? So both guys have some cardio issues. Bunes is not a small guy either. Estevam's going up against Jesus Aguilar, who's like all of 4'11", 5-inch reach. Just nothing. Nothing to really push him. The Charles Johnson win is good, but he gassed out bad. And Charles Johnson has made a career of losing early rounds and then coming back and still losing a 29-28. So line is wide. I'm going to take Estevam for the early pick, the early lean, but I wouldn't be surprised if come Saturday I have a little something on Bunes, just because I think the line is a little bit crazy. Let's move on. Nick Klein, Andre Pulyaev. I thought Pulyaev was a decent fighter, coming off the Contender Series. I didn't bet on him on the Contender Series, but he surprised me. He was an underdog there. He beat this guy named Leon Anderson, who had a decent amount of hype going into the fight, and he pieced him up bad. And then his UFC debut, they gave him Christian Leroy Duncan. Same thing here with Nick Klein. Didn't really think much of him. He gets a win on the Contender Series, submits the guy in 30 seconds, and then they give him Mansour Abdul-Malik. So both guys got contracts off the Contender Series last year. They really weren't supposed to, because they were both underdogs, and they pulled it out. So then they get fed to the wolves, and they're huge underdogs in their first fight in the UFC. Now they're putting them together. Like, all right, which guy is UFC level to get a win here? I think it's probably Pulyaev, man, because Nick Klein, my fellow Wisconsin brethren, all right, I really want to, get in on Nick Klein because he's from Wisconsin, trains at Pura Vida in Milwaukee. You look at his Instagram, he's running out in the farm fields, like doing cardio on the roads, back roads. It's cool. But I just don't think the guy's that good, dude. I think he's strong and he has pretty good jiu-jitsu on the ground. But on the feet, he doesn't have much. He does not have much. And when he was fighting Mansour Abdul-Malik, he was so scared to throw anything. He was just throwing these little flick kicks, inside leg kicks that weren't doing much. They were pretty much just keeping the range. And as we all know now, like, Mansour struggles to like take over fights for some reason. He went to the 3rd round with Brundage, and he's just not that aggressive. So Nick Klein survived into round 2, and then he kind of just like gassed out. It wasn't even like the fight went that long. I think maybe it was the mental fatigue of like, don't mess up, don't let this guy hit you. He did hurt him. He hurt Mansour with like a spinning back elbow, spinning back fist, something like that. Maybe it was an adrenaline dump, who knows? But round 2, he just like fell off a cliff with his cardio. And Mansour basically was just fighting a heavy bag at that point. I don't think Pulyaev's going to do that. Like, Pulyaev's not the greatest fighter, but he is 6'4". He's a southpaw, 78-inch reach. I think he uses his length fairly well. Against CLD just kind of put him in the clinch and bullied him there. I don't think Nick Klein's going to do that. And I don't even think Nick Klein has 15 minutes of cardio. How does Nick Klein win this fight, in my opinion? You got to take him to the ground. Probably got to look to take the back and get him out of there early, because I don't think he can do it into, late into round 2, into round 3, or for 15 minutes. I think Pulyaev's probably got the better cardio. I think he's got the better minute-winning fighting style. And I just think he's going to win. So I'm going to take Andre Pulyaev here. Give me the V, man. Should have been fighting in Abu Dhabi last week, and maybe we could have caught a W with Pulyaev. Or maybe he gets a W this Saturday, but I'm going to take Pulyaev here for the early pick, the early lean. I just think he's the better fighter overall. All right, we got Tresean Gore taking on Rodolfo Vieira. If Tresean Gore guillotines Rodolfo Vieira, the world has gone to shit, okay? Because Tresean Gore's only wins in the UFC are by guillotine. Josh Fremd got him in that nasty guillotine where you literally flung him up on the cage. Crazy. And then he submits Tricoli, who I guess was a black belt, via guillotine as well. So that's one thing that Rodolfo Vieira's got to worry about, is the guillotine. But he's also got to worry about the big power shots from Tresean Gore. Gore's got some hard leg kicks. And Vieira got dropped by Cody Brundage as well. So, I mean, it's not like Vieira's immune, to getting hit on the feet. So I can see why the line is, a little bit tighter than maybe the skill sets would say. And every fight starts on the feet. But, if this fight hits the ground, I expect Rodolfo Vieira to put this guy through the cooker. It's just about getting it there. Tresean Gore statistically has like an 80% takedown defense. Who is it against? Not that many great wrestlers, or not that many great grapplers, but I've just never been high on Tresean Gore. He got into the UFC at very early professional MMA career, and I just don't know that he's really had any improvements that I've seen. I mean, last time out against Marco Tulio, the guy was tough, but he was not given much to Marco Tulio, and Tulio put it on him. Dropped him twice. I think he landed 100 some significant strikes in less than 2 rounds. Like, he was just a punching bag out there. So if Vieira wants to, get his striking going, I don't think he's going to have a lot of resistance outside of maybe some big shots. Tresean Gore just can't counter-strike at all. He's got to be the guy that's initiating. And maybe he could be, but I just don't see it. I think eventually Rodolfo gets to the back, probably chokes him out. But Rodolfo is getting up there in age, but still looks like an absolute Greek god. So still in good shape. I think he should have enough here to get a W. Is coming off the loss to Andre Petroski, but Petroski's a good wrestler, and I don't think you're going to take down Petroski easily. I think Rodolfo Vieira, I think that was a tough matchup for Rodolfo. Actually took Petroski by decision in that one. So I like Vieira to get this one done, probably by sub. I'll take him for the early pick, the early lean. But watch out for that big right hand from Tresean Gore. We've seen these favorites lose a lot these past couple of weeks, and if you get a little overconfident, anybody can beat anybody on any given week. So if Rodolfo Vieira is the early pick, let's move on. Nathan Fletcher, Rinya Nakamura. I don't know about you guys, but after last performance from Rinya, he is on the do not bet list until you show me something. And considering he's minus 400, I can tell you right now he ain't going to get none of my money this Saturday. I didn't have a bet on him in his last fight against Gaffarov, but he was also a huge favorite in that one and didn't do anything. Shot one takedown, didn't get it, and I think it took him a while before he actually shot a takedown. I think he wanted to go in there, work on his striking or something. I don't know. I don't know what he was doing, but he's not a striker, man. You are a wrestler. Very good wrestling. Very good wrestling. Like, one of the best wrestlers you'll see around. I don't think he's 30 years of age. That's probably a typo from the graphics guy. Sorry about that, but he's pretty young. Very good wrestler, though, and has used that to win a couple UFC fights against Fernan Garcia, against Carlos Vera, and he was running through these dudes on Road to UFC, but that level of competition on Road to UFC is just terrible. So I can't really put too much stock into that. He does train at ATT, though, as well. You'll see on his Instagram he's training with Pantoja and stuff. That's cool, but he just has nothing really to offer on the feet outside of like some overhands. It's kind of the wrestling. It's the Bo Nickel, man. It's a left overhand, and then you're looking to wrestle. So that's what he's got to offer. On the other side, Nathan Fletcher, training partner of Paddy Pimblett, I believe. I think he's a good fighter, man. I think he's improving. I thought his last fight against Kyle Lofgren, I think he probably should have arguably won just based on damage. I thought he was the guy looking to actually fight. He did get taken down multiple times in that one and kind of got bullied a little bit. And I could see the same thing happening here with Rinya. Is Rinya getting his takedowns but not really doing too much with it? Nathan Fletcher looking to force some scrambles, maybe hitting him with some elbows in the clinch or elbow in his head when he's looking for those takedowns as well. Just being scrambly off his back. His best asset is his grappling. And it is good, but it does get him in trouble sometimes. You know, when he's getting taken down, he gets taken down easily, and then he's forcing these scrambles, and he's making the guy work, and the guy's not really getting much damage off. He's trying to struggle to control him, but he's also not winning because he's the guy on his back, and then he loses minutes that way. So I could see that same thing happening here against Rinya Nakamura, but at plus 300, like, I think it could probably go to a close decision. I don't really see Rinya knocking out Fletcher. I don't see him submitting him on the ground. I could see him getting takedowns, but I don't really see him doing anything crazy with it. I could see Nathan hurting him with some shots on the feet, reversing positions, fighting for a good position, maybe getting to the back for a round, threatening with a choke. I think it could be actually very close. So these odds are wide, in my opinion. I'm not going to be playing Nakamura at minus 400. I'm going to take him for the early pick, though, just because I do think he has the wrestling and the grappling chops to probably get a decision victory here against Fletcher. But, the line at plus 300 for Fletcher is very, very tempting because it could go to a very close decision. And if it does go to decision, you want that plus 300 ticket in your pocket, whether it cashes or not. And we're talking value and plus EV betting. Plus 300 on Nathan Fletcher. If it goes to a close decision, that's a good bet, even if it doesn't cash. So maybe that's the way I'll go. We'll see. But for now, I think Rinya Nakamura, pick perspective, probably gets it done by a decision. Great fight here. We got Danny Silva taking on Kevin Vallejos, another minus 400 favorite on the card. And while I would say I'm a little bit more confident in Kevin Vallejos here than I would be in Rinya Nakamura, but that's basically on the fact that I actually think Kevin Vallejos is a real problem. You know, people ask me all the time in the live streams, in the live chat, who's one prospect that you think we should watch out for? Or who's your favorite prospect? I think I almost always say Kevin Vallejos because it's a very fan-friendly style. I remember this guy when he fought Jean Silva on the Contender Series. Shout out to the Contender Series coming back here in a couple of weeks. We actually had Jean Silva on the money line as an underdog on the Contender Series. Those are the type of opportunities you're going to get on the Contender Series. You know, I'm not going to go on a rant about it, but I was thinking about it this past week of like just how many underdogs you've gotten on the Contender Series that a year or two later you're looking at them like, how are they an underdog? Or how are they minus 150? Peyton Talbot, minus 150 on the Contender Series. Like, some insane opportunities. But Kevin Vallejos was actually the favorite against Jean Silva in that one. And he took the first round, lost the next two, and he took some big shots from Jean Silva. I mean, we know what Jean Silva's doing now in the UFC, and he was, 21 at the time, maybe even 20 years old. Comes back in the Contender Series, runs through this ginger, and we got plus money on him to win by KO, which is another great opportunity for the Contender Series. Ran through him in round one, got the KO, comes into the UFC, knocks out Sung Woo Choi. And I don't think it was plus money. It might have been plus money on the KO, but either way, he got it done. And Danny Silva, on the other hand, another guy from the Contender Series, had a great fight on the Contender Series, comes into the UFC. I bet on him as an underdog against Josh Kulabau. Very close fight. He gets it done. Then he fights Lucas Almeida. He's like a minus 200 favorite. I wasn't really with that. I think I might have played the fight to not go the distance. It did go the distance, so we lost one there. But Danny Silva's a guy that's going to bring the heat, man. Like, he is going to bring the heat every single fight. Do you want to bring the heat against Kevin Vallejos? I don't know, because I think Kevin's probably more durable. I think Kevin's probably got more power. But Danny Silva is there to be hit, but he's also going to be hitting you. And as we've seen these past couple of weeks, if you're going to be there to be hit, you could definitely get your lick and you could get put out. Or if you're going to be there to throw, you could definitely connect with your shot. So Danny Silva's a big underdog here. And it's I think it might be a little bit rich, but at the same time, I'm like, I believe in Kevin Vallejos so much that he should be able to come in here and beat Danny Silva. I think he could probably knock him out as well. I think he's got the power edge. I think his boxing is a little bit more methodical to where he's looking to land the big shots. I think Danny Silva is looking to overwhelm you with volume and take over as the fight goes on with his cardio and his activity. I think Kevin can match some volume here, and I think the shots that he lands probably going to be a little bit more impactful, and he could probably get a knockout as well because Danny Silva is there to be hit, man. He absorbs over 7 significant strikes per minute, and Vallejos only needs one shot to put your lights out. Also, very good at ripping the body, and I could see maybe, those body shots starting to wear on Danny Silva. So Kevin Vallejos is the early lean. I think he could probably get it done by KO. We'll see what the number is on that, but Kevin Vallejos minus 400, a little bit risky, considering where these favorites have been losing. But when people are afraid like that, maybe it is time to look towards those favorites, just because everyone's probably going to be a little bit scared to parlay these minus 400s. But we'll see. Kevin Vallejos, early pick, great fight though. Looking forward to it. Before we get into the main card, I'm going to remind you, if you want all the bets, jump in the Home of Five Picks Premium membership. Use code HeyJob, get that 5-day free trial. That's where you're going to get all the bets every single week. The DFS plays were sent out. There's a link down in the description below to get those now. If you need a sports book, jump on Wager Attack. It's available in all 50 states. You get a 200% free play bonus and a 10% cash bonus on crypto. So you deposit $100, you're going to get $200 in free play bonus, and you're going to get 10% bonus or cash added to your cash bonus if you use crypto. It's available in all 50 states. They got thousands of props to choose from come Saturday. To the main card, we got Neil Magny taking on Elizeu Zaleski dos Santos. Elizeu Zaleski getting a little bit up there in age. I think he might be slowing down a little bit, but is a lot to do with his last fight against Chidi. Very tough matchup for Elizeu, but he was also a favorite in that one. And now here he is at a similar number, minus 200. That's about what he was against Chidi, going up against a very similar frame in Neil Magny, who's 6'3" with an 80-inch reach. Now, Neil is up there in age as well, hasn't looked that great. He's getting knocked out by Michael Morales, getting knocked out by Carlos Prates. So he's taking his licks his past couple fights. And now he's getting a guy that's similar in age, not an undefeated 25-year-old absolute specimen in Michael Morales. So fighting somebody that I think has a better chance to win against. And I'm not counting out Neil Magny here because, Elizeu Zaleski's a guy that has a great overall skill set, but I think he struggles to put it together to win fights. And as you get older, that capoeira style is kind of based on your quickness, your quick reactions, quick counters, overwhelming these guys with your speed. And 38, it's just not exactly going to work as well. Neil's style is probably going to work a little bit more as he grows older, just because his style is clinch you, smother you, outwork you type of stuff. On the feet, he's not going to really throw much outside of a jab. The way he was taking leg kicks against Ian Gary did not look good. Even the leg kicks against Mike Malott did not look good. So I don't really have a lot to say about either of these guys that I think is good at this point in their career. I will say this, though. If Zaleski can get the fight to the ground, I could see him maybe snatching up a submission or at least threatening with something dangerous like that. Against Randy Brown, he had his opportunities and almost got it in round 2, I think it was. But he also ate some big shots from Randy Brown in that fight. Neil Magny's probably not going to be throwing those flying knees like Randy Brown, not going to be as quick as Randy Brown, but again, a very similar height and frame as Randy Brown does Neil Magny. So Neil's plus 170 here. I think as this fight ends inside the distance, it's probably a Zaleski finish. But if it goes to decision, and I don't really think Neil Magny is going to be out of it. I think it'll be close. I think Neil's going to have his opportunities to clinch control, bully him in the clinch a little bit, especially in that smaller octagon. So Neil at plus 170 is kind of calling my name, but at this point, he's 37, coming off some bad losses. They're not bad losses because they're to some great competition, but they're just not good looks, man. Like the way he got knocked out by Carlos Prates, it did not look good for Neil. And, when I say this every time that I watch a Neil Magny fight, but that vein he's got on his leg, it's just not a good sign, man. Once you start getting those veins on your leg that look like that, that means you're old. That means you are old. I'm going to go with Zaleski here. Don't love him minus 200. I'm not going to be playing him at minus 200. I just think he's got a little bit more damage in his arsenal. I think he's probably got more finishing upside. So I'm going to take Zaleski for the early pick, but I still got to look, towards Neil Magny as an underdog here. If I'm going to be looking to make a bet here, might be Neil Magny by decision. We'll see though. Zaleski's going to be the early pick though. I think he probably wins. Going to some more women's MMA. We got Nora Cornolle taking on Carol Rosa. Carol Rosa. Not exactly been my favorite fighter. All right. I think I've made some money fading her, but I've also lost some money back at her. So I'm kind of hot and cold with Carol Rosa, and she's part of that Denise Gomes, Jessica Andrade camp. And then when I was watching Denise Gomes fight at the Apex when I was there in May, in her corner was Carol Rosa and Jessica Andrade. And those are three dangerous, scary lesbians, Brazilian lesbians for one. So we know what they got going on. In the cage, Carol Rosa is kind of a slow-paced fighter who at times has a lot of volume, but that's mainly when she's fighting a girl that's going to stand in front of her. When she's fighting Irene Aldana stands right in front of you. I think she landed 100 leg kicks in that fight. She landed 200 significant strikes in that fight. But then she's fighting Eileen Perez. And Eileen Perez isn't standing in front of her. She's moving around the octagon, sticking her with some shots, waiting for her opportunities to level change. And Carol Rosa didn't look good. That was her last fight. She lost to Eileen Perez. And I'm not saying Eileen Perez is a bad fighter, but, Carol Rosa is a girl that has fought some really good competition. And that was like a step down in competition for her against Eileen Perez. And Perez looked amazing. She cast there as an underdog, and now Cornolle steps in as an underdog as well in a fight where, I think it probably could come down to a close decision because this is women's MMA, and Carol Rosa doesn't exactly run away with fights. So you're going to tell me that Nora Cornolle is going to come in here and it's going to go to a decision. I think she's got her chances to get her hand raised because Cornolle is kind of got some DDP plot armor to her because she doesn't really look pretty in there, but she is aggressive. She is physical. She's working on her ground game. She's coming off a submission victory at UFC 314. It seems like every time she goes out there, she's looking to take the fight to the ground more often, and she's gonna go in there and want it. And I think for a women's MMA fighter, if you go out there and you want it, and you're big and you're physical and you have some power, you have some finishing upside at dog odds, I don't see why I should look past you. Nora Cornolle went to a very close fight with Jacqueline Cavalcanti, and I think Cavalcanti is a much better striker than Carol Rosa. Like, I think Carol at times is just a little bit letting the fight come to her when she needs to take it over. And Nora Cornolle is always taking the fight over, or looking to take the fight over, I should say. So I want to go with Nora Cornolle here as the underdog. Plus 146. Carol's never really impressed me that much. I see improvements from Cornolle, and I think if she wants to win this fight, she should mix in some grappling. I think she can do it. So I'll take Cornolle for the early pick here as the women's MMA underdog. Another great fight here. Elvis Brener coming in at plus 220, taking on Estevam Ribovics. Esteban coming off the loss to Nasrat Haqparast in a fight where it was kind of frustrating to watch because I just thought, Ribovics was better than Haqparast. I mean, Haqparast is mainly a boxer who at times can get overwhelmed, but does have the ability to stay with you if you're a guy that is just throwing a lot of volume out there. And the real one thing that that I saw in that fight with Ribovics and Haqparast is Ribovics can't really counter-strike. He can't really counter-strike. He has to be the one initiating. Otherwise, he just backs off, waits for you to be done, and then he's going right back to it. He's a guy that is going to throw a ton of volume out there. He wants to drown you. He has amazing cardio. Yeah, amazing cardio. Not the best takedown defense, but he does get back up, and he knows how to stay safe on the ground. So can he overwhelm Elvis Brener? I think he probably can, because I don't think Elvis Brener is really that good, man. I really don't think he was that good. He caught a lot of hype because he came into the UFC. He won as a huge underdog against Zubaira Tukhugov. He was like a plus 400 dog or something like that. Like, he was not supposed to win that fight. Wins a close decision. And then his next fight, he's an even bigger underdog to Guran Kutateladze. and he comes back from the depths of hell and pulls out a win out of his ass after getting his ass whooped for the first 2 rounds because he punched him in the neck and Guram goes down and he's got blood all over him. It's a sick fight, a sick win, sick come from behind victory. And then they give him some bum his next fight. He knocks him out, and then he fights Rebecki. And I'm like, dude, Rebecki should whoop this dude. Like, he is way better than Elvis Brener. He goes out there, whoops him. And then the next fight against Joel Alvarez. I'm like, Alvarez should win here, dude. Like, Brener is a dog, but being a dog only gets you so far, dude. Like, I just don't think Brener's skills are really all that great. He has a lot of submissions on his record, but we haven't really been able to see any of that submission grappling in the UFC. Can he do it here? I'd be interested to see if that's part of his game plan, is getting this fight to the ground, but I don't know that he's the best wrestler. I don't think Ribovics is a guy that's just going to get taken down and process subbed. I think it would probably have to be like some type of very opportunistic submission from Brener. So I think Ribovics probably wins here. I think he probably takes over as the fight goes on. I don't think Brener can match his volume. I think Brener's more of a stay to the outside and hit you with big shots. And Ribovics just going to be inside, in the pocket, throwing jabs, throwing 1-2s, throwing big hooks. I think Ribovics probably wins here, man. So if he has the opportunity to control the pace of the fight, I think Ribovics could even get a finish later in this fight. So I'll take Estevam Ribovics for the early pick here. I just think he's a little bit better at this point. I've just never been super high on Elvis Brener. I know the underdog money looks great. He's going to go out there and fight for your money, that's for sure. But I think Ribovics just a little bit better. Co-main event, we got Chris Duncan taking on Mateusz Rebecki. Another one where I think there might be a little bit of some, I can't really say recency bias, but the big thing with this one is Mateusz Rebecki was looked at as like a real problem in the division. And then he loses to Carlos Diego Ferreira in a fight where he got beat up. He came out hot. He threw the kitchen sink at Carlos Diego Ferreira. And Carlos was still there. He was still there in round 2. And then he just took over. Rebecki gassed. And Diego took him to school. Put a beating on him. There's a picture out there of Rebecki after that fight in the hospital. His eyes are swollen shut. There's blood all over his face. And I posted, I said, Rebecki looks like he's in a prison somewhere. He's like getting held in a prison somewhere, and he's getting like beaten up because he's not telling them what they want to hear. Like he just looked brutalized in that fight. And then in his next one against Rebecki, he's like plus 300 underdog. I'm like, dude, for one, Rebecki is good, but Rebecki, he's going to be tough to take down, dude. Like, Rebecki is a good wrestler. He hits hard. Might not have the best cardio, but he is still a dog. And he went in there, busted up Rebecki. It was a very close fight. And I think I ended up playing Rebecki by decision at like plus 600. And I'm glad I cashed because Rebecki's eye was absolutely destroyed. And Rebecki still did slow down in that fight. And both guys were gassed, at the end of the fight. So, I mean, it was a very close fight, but Rebecki was very undervalued in that one. And now I'm looking at him at minus 200. I'm like, is he overvalued or is this accurate? Because on the other side, Chris Duncan's cashing as an underdog multiple times. Guillotine against Blasioki, big underdog win against Jordan Vucenic. So, I mean, there's got to be some love for Chris Duncan in this line. But, Duncan is a good grappler himself, obviously, getting a couple submissions his last couple fights. Solid wrestler, but he's a little bit awkward in there. He doesn't have, I don't want to say he has the best chin, but he does get hit clean, at times. He does have some power in his hands as well. These are two guys that just bring it every single fight. They're not going to go out there and just, go tit for tat spar. They're going to go in there and bring it. They're both training out of ATT, and there's a picture out there of them at ATT, like they're training for this camp, probably a room away from each other. Very weird. So they're teammates. I don't know how familiar they are with each other. I know at ATT they get a lot of fighters, so I don't know that these guys have been like training partners for a bunch of their career. I think they're probably just guys that come and go. I know Chris Duncan's more of a guy that's been there full time. I think Rebecki kind of the same, but I don't know if he's been there as long. Either way, I look at this fight and I just don't have a good read on it. I don't think Rebecki's going to be easy to submit, especially via guillotine, because he ain't got much of a neck. He's kind of a short fire hydrant type of guy. I think Duncan can definitely do some good work at range because Rebecki's got to get it on the inside to let his hands go. Rebecki's got some nasty leg kicks. He's got a big overhand. His wrestling is really good. I think he could take down Chris Duncan. Got to watch out for the guillotine. But I think he could maybe get some periods of top time on Duncan. If Duncan wants to take down Rebecki, I'm not saying he can't, but I just think it'll be a little bit tougher. Cardio-wise, though, that's where I think it might come down to. Like, is Chris Duncan's cardio amazing? I'd probably say no, but we've seen Rebecki gas many times. He didn't gas as bad as he did against Orbai as he did against Carlos Diego Ferreira, but we know he slows down. Maybe that's where Duncan can take over. I'm going to take Rebecki for the early pick just because I do think he has a little bit better of a skill set or a little bit more of a consistent skill set that we've seen in the UFC. It's just the cardio concerns. So I'm going to take Rebecki for the early pick. I got to look at it a little bit more. In all reality, this might be a stay away for me just because they're training partners. There's a lot of familiarity there with, both guys being at the same gym. Don't really like doing those because a lot of times it's just turns into a fight that you don't really expect it to be. So Rebecki's going to be the early pick here. Great fight, though. I hope they put on a show. They never really let you down in the past, so I expect them to. So Rebecki's going to be the early pick. Let's go to the main event. We don't have odds for this one yet because it just got announced today, but Tatsuro Taira was supposed to take on Amir Albazi. Albazi pulls out again. And I didn't know if they were going to get a replacement for Tatsuro Taira, but they called Hyun-Sung Park. And Hyun-Sung Park, who was supposed to fight Steve Erceg in a week or two, so he was up for the challenge. So I believe it is still 5 rounds. So obviously Park wasn't training for a 5-rounder, and that's going to be a big deal. Tatsuro Taira coming off his first 5-rounder of his career where he definitely slowed down. But he still had his moments in the fight, even later in the fight, where he had the back of Brandon Royval. We're talking about Brandon Royval, who was the number 1 contender at the time. So, that's not a bad loss, especially, if that's going to be your first loss of your career. Hyun-Sung Park, undefeated, came into the UFC from the road to the UFC. And as we talked about earlier with Rinya Nakamura, not very high on the road to UFC. And he was actually losing that fight. He was losing his fight in the road to UFC finals against Sung Guk Choi. And then he got to the back in round 3 and submitted him. So I was never high on this guy coming to the UFC. And they give him Shannon Ross. And I'm like, dude, I can't fade him with Shannon Ross because Shannon Ross can't take a punch from, my 9-month-old child. So I can't fade him with Shannon Ross, but there might be a time where I'm going to have to fade Hyun-Sung Park. So then he fights Carlos Hernandez next. And I'm like, all right, well, Carlos Hernandez is an amazing fighter, but if he doesn't get, finished early on here, I think Hernandez could maybe outwork him later in the fight. What happened? Park finished him in round 1. So if I faded Hyun-Sung Park with Carlos Hernandez, there's no way I could take him against Tatsuro Taira. Like, I've never been high on Hyun-Sung Park, but, there's been some fighters in the past that I just haven't been high on, and they've done good things. So I don't think Park is a bad fighter. I thought his performance last time out against Hernandez actually looked amazing. I was there at the Apex. I thought he looked really good. But is he good enough to take down Tatsuro Taira? I just don't think so. I think Taira's striking is definitely good enough to deal with Hyun-Sung Park. Park has been dropped by much lesser competition. Park has some good boxing. He hit Hernandez with a really good knee up the middle, I believe, his last time out. But the real fight is going to be when the fight's on the ground, and I think Taira can grapple with a lot of people. If you put Taira and Pantoja in a grappling match, I think it would arguably be competitive. Tatsuro Taira's back takes are insane. His top pressure is actually really good as well. And I think he could probably submit Hyun-Sung Park here. So I'm going to take Tatsuro Taira for the early pick. I expect Taira to be a pretty sizable favorite here. Who's a pretty sizable favorite against Albazi. Albazi's at least, gotten some good wins in the UFC. But Park is young, man. He's young, and I'm sure he can try to put together some type of game plan to give Taira fits, but I just don't know that it really happens. So Tetsuro Taira is going to be the early lean, the early pick. I expect him to be minus 400 or higher. We'll see, but that's going to do it for the video. A little bit late. I apologize for that, but as I told you at the beginning of the video, a lot of weird stuff happened. We didn't have a main event, so I was like, I'm not making an early pick video if we don't have a main event. We got it now, so I'm getting it out. Appreciate y'all. Like the video for me. Subscribe to the channel. We'll be back here real soon with some more content. Till next time, hey, Job Picks. We out.